All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little reaction to the Lions losing to the Baltimore Ravens. But first, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. And this video is sponsored by Mojo Fantasy. Use the link in the description and use that promo code Krug to get your first deposit matched up to $100. And everybody who does do that will automatically go into a raffle for a Brock Purdy or a Nick Bosa jersey, which will be we raffled off the on the post game after the Giants or after the Niners Seahawks game on Thanksgiving. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Lions today and the Baltimore Ravens. And the Baltimore Ravens slap around the Detroit Lions, and the Niners will take on the Baltimore Ravens later this year. So this was a good game to watch. And of course, the Lions, a lot of people feel like are one of the up and coming teams in the NFL, myself included. But they got a real lesson today of why it's so difficult to beat the Ravens in Baltimore. They're just a dominant home team. They're a huge bully team. They get out to a lead and they make you play from behind. They put tremendous pressure on the beginning of games on opposing teams when they're in their own building. Um, Now, the Niners play Baltimore at Levi's, so it won't have the same impact. The Ravens are not nearly as good away from Baltimore as they are in Baltimore. But looking at this game today, I mean, a couple things happened. Lions struggled to convert third and fourth downs. I mean, that was really it. They couldn't stay on the field offensively. Every time I looked up offensively in the first half, it was Baltimore with the ball. Detroit was 5 of 16 on third down conversions, 2 of 6 on fourth down conversions. So 7 of 22 on third and fourth down conversions. If you're going to beat Baltimore, man, you got to convert on third down, and they really couldn't do that today. Baltimore also put up 500 yards of total offense in this game, 503 yards, and the Lions defense I don't think is quite as good as people think. Now they just lost Emmanuel Mosley with to a torn ACL, so he's done for the year. And Eman was a key cog in their back end, and I just think that the Lions might be kind of a year away when you look at their defense. Um, and today, Baltimore put up 500 yards of total offense on them. And then Baltimore defensively sacked Jared Goff 5 times. So if you take away, if you make the Lions pass the ball, Jared Goff is still a guy that's not that hard to sack. I mean, he's not very mobile. He doesn't move around. He's got a tremendous line. Detroit is a classic example of a team that has to play from ahead. They run the ball, they keep the game close. They either get a lead or keep the game very close and have the play action at their disposal. Today they fell behind. They didn't have the run game, didn't have the play action pass, and Goff got sacked 5 times. Also, Baltimore ran it 146 yards, 5.4 a clip to only 84 for the Lions. So Detroit, of course, because they fell behind early, had no offensive balance, and they're a team that runs the ball a lot, and they just had their running game because of the scoreboard taken away from them. They had no offensive balance to speak of. 53 passes for Detroit, only 14 runs. So that was a big key. Detroit can win games, but they have to win them their way. They have to be able to run. They have to stay balanced offensively. They have to have that play action pass at Goff's disposal available the entire game. And then, you look at Lamar Jackson. I mean, this is a key guy to watch. Detroit had 0 sacks of Lamar. Aiden Hutchinson's a really good defensive end, but he needs more help up front. The Lions had no sacks on Lamar and only 1 quarterback hit the entire day. So when you look at 0 sacks of Lamar, that's really it. I mean, Lamar Jackson had a phenomenal day. He looked like the league's MVP today against the Lions. He was 21 of 27 passing for 357 yards. He accounted for 4 total touchdowns, 3 in the air, and then 1 rushing touchdown on the ground. So, you got to beat Baltimore. You have to be able to, slow down Lamar Jackson. And he did whatever he wanted today. And then Baltimore also got big plays on their defense. Geno Stone had an interception of Jared Goff. Kyle Van Noy led the way. He had 2 sacks of Jared Goff. And Baltimore got a big lead. And and took away the run from Detroit. And if you do that, I think you saw that Detroit's not a team that can come from behind. And today they didn't. 38-6, Baltimore gets the win. So, I mean, a couple things to learn from in this game. One, if you're playing Detroit, and you can get a lead on them, they're not the kind of team that can play coming from behind. I think that was abundantly clear. And so if the Niners ever lock horns with Detroit in the playoffs, if you can get a lead against Detroit and take away their ability to run, today they didn't have David Montgomery. If you look at the rushing stats, Detroit ran 14 times for 84 yards because Jameer Gibbs had a 21-yard run. It looks good. It looks like, hey, Detroit ran for 6 yards a carry, but they really did they didn't run often. They had 53 passes and 11 and 14 total runs. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still a tremendous receiver. Jameer Gibbs had his bust out day as a receiver. He had 9 catches for 58 yards. I mean, the Lions have good weapons offensively, but I think you saw today that if you force them into a passing game, and you can go off on Goff and really start to hit the quarterback, and that's what the Ravens did. The Ravens really, had five sacks, they had 8 hits on Goff, and they caused an interception, and it's just that I think you saw firsthand that Detroit is a good team, but they can't. They can only win the way they can win. If you get a lead on them, they're gonna have a hard time coming from behind. Now, Baltimore, on the other hand, what was the takeaway here? Baltimore ran for 146 yards, but none of their runners had more than 65 yards. Gus Edwards, 14 carries, 64 yards. Justice Hill, 4 carries, 46 yards. Lamar himself had 9 carries for 36 yards. They averaged 5.4 a carry, but I think Baltimore's run game is still kind of iffy. Their Lamar makes it look better than it is. Lamar had a great day today. He didn't turn it over. And he was near perfect, 21 of 27 for 357 yards. But then I think the Ravens are starting to become a little bit better of a passing team. Zay Flowers had 4 catches for 75 yards. He looked pretty good. Mark Andrews had 2 touchdowns. They've got OBJ, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar got in the end zone. So, and then they also have this rookie back, Keaton Mitchell, who's very quick underneath. And then, defensively, there's some good players in this Raven defense. Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Kyle Van Noy, Patrick Queen, Justin Matabuke, Marlon Humphrey. There's some Geno Stone. There's some decent defensive players. I don't know that it's a scary defense, but it's a defense that if they can get a lead and start really hunting the quarterback, they can be scary. So I think if the moral of today's story with Detroit and Baltimore, if you're a 49er fan, is that both of these teams, Detroit and Baltimore, can put a ton of pressure on you if you fall behind. If you can get ahead and kind of force them into more of a one-sided passing game and take away their run, and I think it's doable with both teams. I think the Niners could take away Baltimore's run. I think they could do a great job taking away Detroit's run. I think both these teams are going to struggle. Lamar, though, is rounding into form right now, and that's bad news. The Niners are going to get him on Christmas, and it's going to be a tough battle. But this game also is not in Baltimore. The game that the Niners will play against the Ravens will be at Levi's Stadium. So overall, I think I think Detroit is for real. I know there'll be people coming out of this thing going, "Oh, Detroit's not for real." Detroit is for real. Except today they fell behind and they can't come from behind. Not quite yet. And Baltimore, a lot of people would be like, "Oh man, huge win for the Ravens," but Baltimore's run game is still just pretty good. I mean, I'm not shaking in my boots over Gus Edwards or Justice Hill. They lost J.K. Dobbins. If the Ravens get an additional running back at the trade deadline, I think they're much more apt to be a Super Bowl contender. Right now, I think they're getting by with with what they got, but it's not there. I don't really respect Baltimore's rushing attack because I don't think Gus Edwards or Justice Hill and Lamar can really beat a championship caliber team on the ground. So both teams, you'd rather play from ahead than behind, that's for sure. But you know, I think my takeaway would be like, okay, there'll be people on Monday that'll be like, hey, you know what? Detroit's a fraud. No, that's not true. And Baltimore's a juggernaut. No, that's not true either. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Make sure you check out Mojo Fantasy and use that link in the description and use the promo code Krug to get your first deposit matched up to $100 and enter for a chance to win a Bosa or a Purdy jersey on Thanksgiving night. And once again, thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.